So this is the third video in the key area 2.6, the need for transport, and it's looking at the respiratory system. So we're going to have a wee look at just what the system is made up of. It was a while ago since you last looked at this. I think it was in first year, so a bit of a recap. So basically your respiratory system, I've got here, it's made up of a series of tubes. Now the largest one is the trachea. So coming from breathing in air through the nose, through the nasal cavity here, and then air comes down the trachea here. Now the trachea is made up of rings of cartilage, it says on here. That cartilage helps to hold the trachea open. The rings don't go right round, they're like sort of partial rings coming round the trachea in order to give it some sort of structure. I think my pen is giving up on me here. From the trachea, I'll just adjust the size of this here so we can see it. From the trachea, what then happens is that the trachea splits, and when it splits into two other tubes, and these are called bronchi. One of these is known as a bronchus, so in case you come across that word, but bronchi is the plural. So these are your bronchi, and then each of these individual bronchi, or each bronchus, divides into smaller bronchioles. So these are smaller tubes again, these parts here, the branches. And then at the end of these bronchioles, there are tiny air sacs, and these are called alveoli. And here's an enlarged picture here, just of the air sacs and at the end of the bronchioles. A wee bit like, I suppose you could think of as a bunch of grapes. But what you need to think of is that the air is coming inside here at this point here. So air is travelling down this tube and is coming down inside these alveoli. So you've got these lungs made up of this respiratory system. So here's your lungs with these branching tubes inside them, and at the end of them there's these masses and masses of tiny air sacs called alveoli. Now along the respiratory system, or along the trachea, I've already said that there's rings there to prevent it from sticking and prevent it from closing. But there's also cells that produce mucus, and this mucus will trap any dirt or bacteria that are coming down the trachea. And then, as well as that, on the cells there are these cilia. So here you can see these sort of hair-like projections that are on this diagram that is here. And these hair-like projections, what happens is that they move and they sweep the mucus that has got the trapped dirt or the trapped bacteria in it up to the back of the throat, where it's then swallowed or, if you're disgusting, spat out. Now we're going to have a look at the alveoli, and they are known as the site of gas exchange. Now these are our alveoli, or this is just one single alveoli over here at this side here. So the alveoli is this here. So if you think of that bunch of grapes we saw earlier, we're just looking at one of these grapes, and air is flowing down into the alveoli from these bronchioles. So when the air comes in from the lungs, it's full of oxygen, it's high in oxygen. Now these alveoli in the lungs are surrounded by blood vessels, blood capillaries, and here is one here, just circling round the alveoli. And what happens is you've got your high supply of oxygen here, but as the blood is travelling, the blood is flowing in this direction. As the blood is travelling past the alveoli, that blood is low in oxygen, so I'll just put low O2 over here, because it's come from the cells in the body. And because there's a low oxygen level in these red blood cells, the oxygen that is inside the alveoli will move or diffuse across into the red blood cells. Because remember, diffusion is the movement of substances from a high concentration to a low concentration through a semi-permeable membrane or selectively permeable membrane. And the alveoli have got very thin walls, or made up of thin membranes, that makes it easy for the oxygen to diffuse through. They're also moist as well, and that allows the oxygen to dissolve in the moisture there. And the oxygen can then diffuse across the capillary wall, which remember are very thin as well, and the oxygen can diffuse into the red blood cells. And from there it then gets carried round the body. Remember, it goes from the lungs back into the heart, and then it'll get pumped out of the heart. When it comes to carbon dioxide, well, carbon dioxide, as it's coming towards the lungs, we've got a high carbon dioxide level. And the reason for that is that the cells have been involved in respiration, and carbon dioxide is being produced. So the carbon dioxide levels in the blood are higher than they are in the air that is here, that is being breathed into the lungs and into the alveoli. So what happens is the carbon dioxide will therefore diffuse out of the blood into the air sac, and from there it will move its way back out through all those tubes we mentioned and back out into the surrounding air. So that is the process known as gas exchange. Oxygen diffuses into the bloodstream and carbon dioxide diffuses out of the bloodstream into the air sacs. I've got a note up on here about how alveoli are adapted to be very efficient at this process. I've mentioned already about the thin membranes or the thin cell walls. Alveoli have got a vast network of blood capillaries all round about them. There'd be no point in being very efficient at taking oxygen in and not having anywhere for that oxygen to go. So there's lots and lots of blood capillaries all round about the air sacs in your lungs. There's that moist lining there which allows the gases to dissolve easily. And the alveoli as well, because they're, in that diagram we had before, there are lots and lots of sort of bunches of grapes, if you could think of them like that. It's providing a very large surface area for oxygen to be able to diffuse across, and to diffuse across quickly. So you get quick diffusion because you've got this thin wall, but you also get quick diffusion because you've got this very large surface area. Now I will post up on iTunes U a long dissection, and again, those of you who are squeamish, you don't have to watch it, but it goes over some of these key areas, and also a video from Brightstorm and the respiratory system.